President Xi Jinping, meanwhile, meeting with American CEOs in Beijing yesterday, telling these CEOs that the Chinese economy is, quote, sound and it's sustainable. The CEOs of Qualcomm, Broadcom, Blackstone, FedEx, among others, all in attendance. There's a group of people, Chubb CEO also. The Wall Street Journal editorial board out with this. We hope these business leaders understand that Mr. Xi's promises are not worth much. He and the party can turn in a minute if it suits their political interests. His assurances won't stop China's continuing attempts to steal U.S. business and government secrets. Joining me now is Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts. Kevin, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, we see all these American CEOs going to kiss the ring of Xi Jinping so that they can sell their products to 1.4 billion people, regardless of the national security threat.
It's true. And I have to applaud the Wall Street Journal for understanding that the American nation state and national security is far more important than concerns about the market in China, Maria. So all of that to say, wouldn't it be nice for us to wake up in America tomorrow and realize that Fortune 100 company CEOs are actually much more interested in America's interest and in Americans' interest than in the interest of Xi Jinping?
Yeah, it's really disappointing to see this continuing after the national security threats are obvious. I want to get your take on what's going on with President Trump, because now apparently he's risking a violation of a gag order. In the hush money case, he's demanding that the judge recuse himself for having ties to the Democrat campaigns. The judge previously admitted to donating to President Biden's 2020 campaign. Trump posted this on Truth Social, saying the judge's daughter shared a photo of him behind bars, which he claims makes it impossible for him to get a fair trial. Kevin, your reaction?
My reaction is to put politics off to the side, which is to say, regardless of what someone thinks about President Trump, I happen to think that he's terrific and look forward to him having a second term. But let's just say, Maria, that someone maybe doesn't like President Trump politically. I speak as a historian. I can't think of another time in American history when another American, let alone a former president, has been treated this way. You think about the violation of the 8th Amendment regarding the ridiculous judgment that came out of the Letitia James case. You think about the politicization, the weaponization of our judicial system. All Americans need to understand, regardless of what their plans are for voting for President Trump or not, that if that can happen to him, it can happen to any one of us. And it's really time for us to stand up, not just on his behalf, but on behalf of what we believe in.
Well, how about the media driving the narrative, taking what this administration and the Democrats say and driving it, censoring Trump? I mean, the other day, Trump was saying something at a microphone, and MSNBC and CNN basically just pulled out of it. So we're not going to show you what the former president is saying.
I was thinking about that this morning. It reminds me when I was in the classroom teaching George Orwell. I mean, we live in Orwellian America today, where the mainstream media, thank goodness, not you and your colleagues at Fox Business or at Fox, but the mainstream media otherwise, really, they do filter what we know, what we learn. And it's all the more important for Americans to really be dialed in, sort of like what Cheryl said just a minute ago, not just about national elections, but about local elections as well. Yeah. That's really where we're going to be able to take back this country.
Yeah, I know. But the local elections, as we just discussed, they're being threatened by illegal voting. You know, I mean, look, now we know what the point of this wide open border is. Look at all of the stories where you've got efforts to have illegals vote. And then look at Merrick Garland, the AG, saying he's going to vow to fight voter ID laws. Why?
Well, the whole point, as you and I have talked about for the last few years, is to reorder America. By that, to allow these 10 million illegal aliens not just to vote in our elections, but to live off the dole of our very generous safety net programs on your back, on my back, on the backs of your audience. But all of this, I'm always going to sort of point back to some hopefulness, Maria. Americans have taken note of this. As I travel the country and talk to everyday Americans, they know what's at stake. And I'm just hopeful that at the national level, the state level, and local elections, Americans are going to draw a line in the sand and say that they've had enough.
Well, you mentioned the Biden agenda, more out of control spending from Washington. President Biden signing the $1.25 trillion spending bill last week, Kevin, and in it is basically a defense spending that is declining. in terms of inflation. Joe Pinion, jump in here. That's just one part of the agenda, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin, you look at this budget. I mean, Democrats said for years budgets are moral documents. I think people are starting to catch on. Nothing that we need to prioritize seems to get prioritized. We're not prioritizing the security of the southern border, and we're certainly not prioritizing holding the Chinese Communist Party accountable for bankrolling all of the chaos we see around the world. So, from your perspective and from the Heritage Foundation perspective, how do we refocus American priorities around the fact that China right now is the tip of the spear for everything from Gaza to Ukraine to Russia?
It's urgent that we refocus priorities, as you say, Joe. And the only thing that's going to change the trajectory that we're on in terms of spending and politics is for the Republican leadership in the House, including and especially my friend, Speaker Mike Johnson, to stop acquiescing to Biden and to what the swamp wants them to do, and instead to draw a line in the sand, to say, I've had enough, and I don't care what the political consultants and pollsters are telling me about losing 5 points in the generic ballot. I want to save this country. Yep. And ultimately, that's what it's going to take.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible that everybody who goes in there has to continuing the spending of the Democrat Party and no security at the border. Stunning, actually. Kevin, thank you for weighing in on all of that.